You're listening to the Spend 10K a Day podcast, brought to you by the performance marketing experts at Mute6. This is your source for cutting-edge insight into the world of online advertising from the team with more Facebook case studies than any other agency on the planet. Here are your hosts, Steve Wise and Stuart Anderson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing day at the Spend 10K a Day podcast. Happy Valentine's Day to all the listeners. Hopefully that you're enjoying your Valentine's Day and you are selling lots of Valentine's Day products. Not Valentine's Day products, but incorporating lots of transactions because of Valentine's Day. Well, anyway, we have an amazing guest today. We have Jeremy Gurewitz from Man Crates. Welcome aboard, Jeremy.
Thanks, Steve. Happy to be here.
Happy Valentine's Day, buddy.
Yeah, happy that it's finally arrived. I can breathe a little bit now.
Yeah, man. So it's really interesting how I found out about Man Crates. First off, I love the product. I literally spent probably $3,500 to $4,000 over the holiday season, over Hanukkah and Christmas, on Man Crates. Someone got me a Man Crate, and I'm like, I think it was the spaghetti board, the spaghetti crate.
Okay, yeah, the pasta craft crate, maybe?
The pasta crate. And I'm like, this is the most amazing, assembly of crate that I've ever seen. It was perfect. And then I got the jerky crate, and I'm like, wow, this is like one of the coolest products. I had to reach out to you, man, and see if you want to jump on our podcast. You guys have both an amazing product, a really cool story, and I'm sure a lot of really interesting insights when it comes to both product market fit, customer acquisition, and e-commerce optimization. So without further ado, tell us a little more about the story of Man Crates. So, how did Man Crates start? Tell us a little about the product for all the listeners who don't know what Man Crates is, and then tell us a little more about your background.
Yeah, sure. So Man Crates started with an idea, just like everything else, right? Our CEO and founder, John, sort of had this idea in his head, was kicking it around for a while, and told his wife about it, and she was like, great, but, you got to make some sacrifices. So he sold his motorcycle and decided to go about making sort of the first prototype, got a website up, and just tried to make it a reality. And, the idea behind Man Crates is pretty straightforward. I mean, guys often get gifts that suck. You get another tie or a pair of socks or even, some random gadget that you'll use once and never look at again. And that's no fun, right? So, people in your life, for guys, want to get them gifts. And we view it as our mission to have awesome gifts that, you get a gift from someone in your life, you look at it and you're like, wow, this is an awesome gift. This person really knows me and I love it. And so that's sort of the idea behind Man Crates. We haven't been around that long, since 2012, and it's really just sort of been an exciting journey. I started at Man Crates about a year and a half ago, and I sort of have an interesting background. I actually used to work in quantitative finance, believe it or not, and so
wow, big data.
What's that?
Very, very big data, very complicated data, just data.
Exactly. So I was on a team of PhDs, and even though I don't have a PhD, I have a lot of experience in quantitative, a little bit of coding, and so I sort of was used to looking at pretty fine-tuned data. And so when I was looking for an opportunity out in California, John, I interviewed here, and they said, hey, come along, and we'll see if you can put that brain of yours to good use. So did some data analytics for them, was looking at this stuff, and it was actually crazy. So Man Crates really exploded. I'd used some small agency stuff, but nothing really too in-depth, I'd say. And then I was looking at this, I'm like, hey, I think there's some data here that we can tease out. I think we're not fully optimizing. And part of the awesome Man Crates culture is they said, hey, go for it. So, here I am today.
So a couple of questions. You brought up some really interesting points. Number one, how do you were there at Man Crates super early on, and a lot of e-commerce owners are just getting going and really trying to understand the data. What is meaningful when it comes to that word data? How did Man Crates go about acquiring their first 1,000 users? Like, what was what was that like? And then the second part of that question is, what is the most meaningful part of the data to look at? Like you say, you talk a lot about quantitative data. Well, what elements of data, there's so much data coming out of Facebook and coming out of Shopify. What was the data that you were really looking at and focusing on?
Yeah, so you've asked two huge questions, including how to explain data overall. So I'll try and do my best
Yeah.
To explain both of them. So I wasn't around in the very, very beginning days when John was literally in his garage, classic Silicon Valley sort of thing. But I've spoken to him at great length about it, and it's a bit of a cliche, but it's the reason why it's a cliche is because it's true. It's testing, testing, testing. So John threw up a bunch of prototypes, and in the beginning, he didn't even have all of the products that he had on the website, right? He had people order, and then he would literally call them and be like, "Hey, I'm so sorry, we're out of stock. Like,
Interesting.
but I'll give you a coupon for next time. What are you interested in? Why do you like this product?" He believes strongly, and again, cliche but true. You have to know your customers extremely well. So he threw up a bunch of different iterations. Tried to MVP literally, just hack together, a crate using a saw and some glue, and threw some product in there that he thought made sense that customers would actually enjoy. And before long, it turned out that people really wanted this thing, right? That and it's not just a thing; it's something that people really wanted to get for guys in their life because there really was just nothing like it. And that's something I think that's worth. I think hopefully your listeners can appreciate also is that, copycat products, they're fine, but having something that's a little bit different can really go a long way. I speak for myself when I look on my Facebook feed or if I'm searching for something in Google, something that stands out even a little bit, I think can really go a long way.
So number one, very important, is to user testing. You're launching something brand new. You don't need to have the product in-house. You could literally get the product later. It's just understanding a segment of customers that are most likely to purchase your product and understanding, what expectations they have. So you could really build a product to fit their expectations. Interesting. Number two, to that question, data. That word is everyone. If you're in the online marketing world, everyone's like, I gotta look at the data. I gotta get the data. I gotta, it's just an anomaly where that, a lot of people just are scared of really explaining, describing, and really understanding. I always tell, I talk about it a lot that the word data is ambiguous. It could mean 25 different things. If you're giving advice to your buddy who's, early on in his company, he's going to raise capital and he really wants to understand the data and create a picture or create a picture of his company to investors. What data are you focusing on to really paint a picture of a fast growth company?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of different ways to attack this. The first way is, you can get really, really complicated. And now that we are at a stage where we have some of the resources and time, we can do that. But for a lot of e-commerce, I think it can be really simple. How many people are visiting your site and how many people are buying, right? So in a certain way, the way I think about it is you have sessions, right? And hopefully people here have the ability to figure out how many people are visiting their site, right? Like people can't buy anything unless they're on your site. And there's lots of different ways to acquire customers, and Google and Facebook being the two primary ones, but we could talk about that a little bit later. But simply put, how many people are on your site, and if you have the ability, and I'm not super familiar with Shopify, but hopefully you have the ability to see where people are clicking, and then how many people are buying, because e-commerce conversion rates are low, even for the industry standard, depending on who you talk to, can range anywhere from 2% on the low end to maybe 4 or 5% if you have something really spectacular or you're sort of selling at Christmas or something. But if you think about that, for people starting out, that means, especially if you're not quite sure about product market fit, you need 100 people to visit your site for every one person to buy, right? And so to me, that I think people don't necessarily appreciate that when they're first starting out.
Well, the question is it the Facebook ad or is it the conversion rate on the site? We work with, at Mute 6, we work with some very large spenders. So we manage a little over $100 million a year in spend. So we're very, very sensitive to the conversion rates on the site. We're very sensitive to understanding the user's expectations when they click an ad. What are they expecting? What are they thinking? What's the next action in the mind? And there's a psychology element to marketing, which I feel like some people always gaze over because everything is data, data, data. So tell me a little more of the way you guys think about conversion rates. You mentioned e-commerce conversion rates. What have been some of the bigger wins on site that you guys have, really leveraged to really continuously increase that conversion rate, from, really giving that demand create experience?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to think about, like, as you're pointing out, the psychology of the customer and what is the journey you're leading them on. So if you have an ad for one of your products, I should back up a little bit. So we test everything, and I would emphasize again that what we found is different tests, maybe a different time of the year, maybe it's a different product, maybe it's even a different segment, can result in different results. And so you have to be rigorous with your testing, and it's a pain, right? People don't want necessarily, I have to write this down, I have to track what this happened. If you're not rigorous in your testing, you're not going to be able to see sort of rigorous results. So we try and be extremely rigorous in our testing. And what we found, I'll give you a few sort of broad insights. Depending on the segment and depending on the product, the journey that you lead them on the website can lead to vastly different results. So, for example, we just had Valentine's Day going. If you have one of your ads that leads to just the general homepage, that is one way to do it. Or if you have them to a specifically customized landing page or a specially customized Valentine's Day page, or if you have a product and you have sort of just a few products associated with that, you're giving them less choice, that could even be better. So, these are some of the things that are worth thinking about as sort of you're doing when you're talking about a larger spend or trying to sort of really narrow in on what's the way to optimize these sorts of things.
So really, making sure that the customer you're driving is, from a e-commerce conversion rate perspective, is really hitting a certain price mark, is really, maybe doing split tests around price, audience, specific landing pages to each. You guys use a lot of advertorials and content and different types of videos. Can you tell me a little more about your content strategy of getting people in the funnel, new customers specifically, really talking a little to that man create experience, selling that experience, if I may ask?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, on our site, everyone listening should go to mancrates.com. Look, I can't help but give a little plug there. The reason why I think it's useful is if you go everywhere on the site, you see that uniform message. So what is the Mancrates message? Lighthearted, right? So on all of our products, we have a in-house creative team that does an amazing job. They actually just won the Digiday Best Ad of the Year award, which was pretty exciting for.
And what ad was that?
So this was a longer feature ad. It was Adventures in Customer Service, and it was a 3-minute video on our Facebook page that you can take a look at, and it's really great. It shows the Mancrates message. Basically, it tells the story about how one of our customers got a hot and spicy crate, and they opened it up, and unfortunately, FedEx doesn't treat all packages with the love and care they deserve, and so one of the hot sauce bottles had exploded, and it dripped all over this woman's beautiful carpet. And so she was upset about it. She called our customer service. And one of the key tenets of Mancrates is excellent customer service. We call it the high five guarantee. So, we promise to make it right no matter what. That's just one of the core tenets of Mancrates. So they called us up, and the woman was, very upset, and rightly so. I mean, you don't want to have to you think it's going to be a great gifting experience, and you have hot sauce exploded all over your carpet. James, our head of customer service and a generally awesome dude, called up a carpet cleaning service, and he got them to come over within an hour, and he cleaned her carpet, and she was happy, and he did it free of charge. All he wanted was a free crate out of it, and I think that exemplifies sort of the Mancrates motto,
That's
which
really
is,
cool.
Great experience. We'll make it right no matter what.
That creative is real, and that's very emotional. I feel like that's very touching in a lot of ways because, people have those type. If they buy something and they don't have the great experience, they want to find a company that's going to go over and above the call of duty. And I think capturing that in a piece of content, that's amazing. And to all the listeners out there, if you could really capture your number one, what does your brand stand for? I think Mancrates does an amazing job of showing what the brand stands for. Now, number two, creating content around experiences of the product. I always talk about that of, what is it's not just about product shots and lifestyle shots. It's about cultivating that experience. This is a real experience that people had from buying man crates, and I think that's why that specific ad unit is successful. I'm sure you're running that in all your Facebook ads. I'm sure you're bringing people in the funnel, with a piece of content around that. And I think I can't say how how important that is, because we're content creators. So along with performance marketers, we also have a full, creative team, and creative is very important to us. Experience is very important to us. And I think that's an amazing story, man. I think I can't say how amazing that is.
Yeah, no, I mean, you should definitely check it out. It's on our Facebook page, facebook.com/mancrates. Look at our videos there. I guess what I would say to your listeners also is, there's not everyone is lucky enough to have an in-house creative team or can afford to do a big sort of budget production, but there are smaller ways that you can sort of exemplify it, even sort of guaranteeing great customer service. And I think it's definitely harder when you're scaling, but when you're just starting out, can't recommend enough to really contact your customers if there are any issues whatsoever. I think it's easy starting out to sort of try and say, oh, I'm trying to save a few bucks here. Maybe this customer is being unreasonable. Going above and beyond customer service, we found, pays dividends.
Interesting. Very interesting. So reaching out to your customers once they order personally. First 100 customers, start reaching out to them. Start saying, hello, hey, my name is Steve, my name's, James. Tell me about this product. Maybe having a list of questions, right, that you could ask specific customers if you're in a very early stage of your business, right?
Yeah, all of that is big. And certainly if a customer reaches out to you, making sure that you're on top of that. I think that's something, and it's hard. I mean, we sell enough now that we definitely, even a small percentage of problems can be large over time. But, we make the extra effort to make sure that we respond to everything as quickly as possible and making sure that we do whatever we can to make it right.
Awesome. So I'm going to move the conversation to a different place.
Sure.
2 areas that I'm really fascinated with. Number one, tell me this: how important is packaging in getting repeat customers? You guys have such a unique packaging with the crate. I get the crate, and it's just an experience of unboxing that big wooden crate that comes in, and it's like, wow, this crate just arrives at your door. How important is that? Like, to have to really be thoughtful in the way your product is packaged and that experience of getting the product at the door. I think there's not many e-commerce brands that do a great job on the packaging side. I want to give MeUndies a shout. Besides, I was working with them for a long time. I mean, they have amazing packaging as well. But, you guys have incredible packaging. So I'm wondering just, if you could talk a little more to our listeners about, how important packaging is, and how do you think and iterate packaging, because that's so important.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of iterating on packaging, I would think of that similar to iterating on product, which is sort of what is your impression? Again, we ask our customers for feedback all of the time. So when I talk about reaching out to customers, getting their feedback is so important. I mean, how else do you know? I mean, you can look at what's selling, and we look at that to an extent, but we found that things can sell, but maybe customers are neutral towards it. They think, all right, it was fine, nothing spectacular, but sort of that the goal here is to delight, right? That's you're selling a product that delights. That's how you build your customer base. And so when we think about repeat customers, one of the things here that, and I think you mentioned MeUndies, I can use a cliche, but it's a great example. Apple, right? You see the packaging, you just know immediately, your brain's emotional response starts going. Having distinctive packaging, I can't recommend strongly enough. I think that earlier on, we had tested less distinctive packaging. So even just the cardboard box that the crate comes in, right? We have a Man Crate branded cardboard box. These like little things, people see that, and we've gotten feedback from customers saying, oh man, I'm seeing the box, I'm like excited now. That's really important. And it's funny. I mean, being a performance marketer is very easy to just focus on the numbers, but it's important to remember that numbers are representing real people and real products. And so we try and really strongly to emphasize sort of every component of the process, again, sort of modeling ourselves out of sort of best practices brands. If you think of, Nike, Apple, et cetera.
It's interesting. You said something in there about data. Again, the so what of data. Everyone's good at compiling data, but this data is people, and what is, what we're worried about as performance marketers is we're worried about the data on the back end. We're worried about, we're paying so much money for these users to come in our funnel. We're paying Facebook and Google. If you have a great product, that's going to lead to better retention. It's just the reality of the game. And I think if more and more companies put the time into really understanding their customer base, what is their expectation? What is going to make this experience unique other than any other gift box? There's so many gift boxing companies for men, for women. You guys, what I love about you guys is you guys have a differentiation. You guys are different. You guys build an experience around your brand. That was one of the reasons why I was really excited to get you guys on the podcast, because I really talk a lot about experiences, of building customized experiences for consumers.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's again, that's something that we ask ourselves, that same question. And, I mean, look, there's always going to be people who try and compete with a similar product, or even just try and rip you off. But, if you are thinking thoughtfully about it, I think that that's sort of the way that you achieve success here.
Cool. I'm going to move the conversation to another place. This is a question that a lot of more mature brands are thinking about, something I think about on a daily basis as a performance marketer. Personally, I probably managed, hundreds of millions of dollars in spend on Facebook as well as search over my 12, 13-year career as a performance marketer. So I'm always thinking about this. Man Crates is, for all intents and purposes, it's a gift. It's a gift.
Yep.
You'd agree that most people buy Man Crates as a gift for someone else. You don't have many people that just buy Man Crates for their everyday use. It's for a gift for a man or for someone in their life that they care about. How does Man Crates, how does their marketing change, and how do they survive when on non-gifting seasons? April 3rd, March 26th. There's no reason to give a gift on March 26th. There's no reason to give a gift on April 3rd. There's no reason to give a gift on June 15th. How do gifting companies that survive mainly on, building gifts and experiences for consumers, how do they survive during non-gifting seasons? Everyone has their own secret sauce, and I think that's kind of what interests me from a brand perspective is, what do you guys do when there's non-gifting type holidays,
Yeah, sure. So I would answer that question two ways. First of all, and this is any consumer product company, right? You have seasonal peaks, and I think it's companies, that try and fight against that. If you want to allocate tons of dollars in sort of dead periods, I think you do that at your own peril. You want to invest your money at a period of time where sort of customer sentiment is ready for it, right? So we sort of appreciate that element of it. But with that said, we're always working to iterate. I guess I would push back a little bit on your point that there's no reason to give a gift on off season. People have events in their lives. It can be something as simple as a birthday, where maybe, want to give a gift to someone that I care about. So that's one element of it. Second element I would push back on just a little bit is, we're always thinking about ways to sort of portray it in a different light. So yes, Man Crates, awesome gifts for men. But we're starting to see some people building for different uses that we wouldn't have expected. People often just want something cool for themselves, or even something cool. It's called Man Crates, but we're seeing people buying them for women. And so to answer your question about marketing, again, we test everything and we sort of promote products around sort of seasonal holidays. So, for example, Mardi Gras was cool. Not too long ago on Tuesday, right? A little bit in the Valentine's Day season, but we had some content around that. We have some products that are related to that. When you think about other sort of seasonal events, we just had the Super Bowl, so we have some NFL products. So we think about these smaller events, and we do see upticks because it's people care about what's relevant in their lives, and so they think about these smaller things, and maybe it's not quite as relevant to everyone as Christmas, where Christmas matters to everyone. But focusing on these small things we found is worth the time, and just having content or advertising or copy that's related to that, as long as it ties in with a product, we found can be successful.
Cool. So just a high level of thoughts that you're just communicated. Number one, being very current with the time. So if it is Mardi Gras, let's come up with some content for Mardi Gras in our ads. Let's really make all of our ads as current as possible. We don't want to just be a seasonal product. And obviously, yeah, people are gonna buy it for their birthdays. People are gonna buy it. It's not just a gifting product. It brings joy to people. So obviously, it's not just gifting. But number two, which I think is really interesting, a really good nugget I pulled is, consumer insights. You guys seem like you do an amazing job of consumer insights on your brand, of really understanding, how people are using the product and really building upon that. You said that there's some really creative uses of man crates, and I think for every product company out there, CPG brand, it's really important to understand how people are using your product. They might not be using it in the most traditional way, and maybe there's a lot of unique angles that you could then apply to your marketing from the way people use your product. And I'm sure you guys have found out a little more about that. Can you talk a little more about your consumer insights and how you guys think about, really understanding the consumer, the uses, and how you apply that to your marketing?
Sure. I guess what I would say is that we are blessed with awesome customers. And so, not to pitch our Facebook page too much, but people have repurposed the man crate. So you can go and look at, people often use them as, chests to hold things, or maybe I've seen it as a birdhouse. I've seen it, turn the clock.
Cool.
Really cool stuff. And again, I'm repeating myself here, but it's important. Constant contact with your customers. When people buy something from you, they give their emails. If people want to be heard, so we are trying to maintain a constant conversation with our customers. We encourage them to send us information, complaints, compliments, thoughts. We have our customer service team, which is rigorously, tracking every contact we have with our customer. Understanding our customers comes from speaking to your customers. There's no short and sort of analytic shortcut around it. And this is coming from, I promise you, a data guy. I mean, we have tons of data on our customers. I mean, inherently speaking, purchase data, Google Analytics data, Facebook Analytics data, insights, et cetera, but it's no substitute for talking to your customers.
Cool. Now let's jump into. I'm gonna change up a little as well. Now, we haven't really talked into anything strategic
Okay.
on the Facebook side.
Sure.
This is the fun part of the conversation where we can talk a little nitty gritty, talk some Facebook life. How do you
Sure.
guys think about structuring your campaigns? Obviously, there's the beautiful prospecting campaigns, or awareness, experience, driving that experience into new customers. What types of creative do you guys think about using in your prospecting campaigns? What type of conversion or what type of what type of objectives are you guys using? Are you guys straight conversion objective? Are you guys using other types of objectives like video views, view content, add to carts? And number two is, like, how are you setting up your remarketing audiences? Are you guys doing 1 day out, 15-day outs? Are you guys having different messages in a kind of a sequential marketing format? Talk a little more about both sides of the funnel, how you guys think of both.
Yeah, sure. So I guess, sorry, let me back up a little bit. In terms, you asked, I think, how do you run Facebook advertising? Yeah, sure. So, I mean,
sorry about that. Get a little excited there.
Yeah. Let me see what I can share without giving away too much of the
Don't
secret
give away
sauce.
the sauce, man. Feel free if I ask too many questions.
What I would say is we've tested every piece of creative that Facebook offers. So static images to carousels to videos to video carousels, to canvas ads to collections, right? We've had some good success with collections. I think for e-commerce in particular, that's something worth noting. Having the ability to click on some products and get to see a closer look is definitely, we found in our testing, is worth it. I would again emphasize, though, that it's, again, rigorously testing. So if you have an ad set, it's worth testing potentially similar creative in multiple formats and seeing what works out best for your audience, particularly in the prospecting area, where depending on what audience you're targeting, it could be wildly different. We optimize to conversions. We're lucky enough that we have enough of a budget and volume that you can do that. I think for your larger budget, for an e-commerce company, I'm not really sure what else, unless you really have like a brand awareness goal, which I would imagine maybe some of your larger clients maybe have. But Yeah, sorry. So that's sort of the general first answer. What was your second question again, or did you want to
On the
follow up on?
retention side, a lot of the work that we do, we've had tons of success with, is really doing what we call sequential marketing. Of, you're gonna get this message, and you're gonna get this message, and really kind of building Facebook into a funnel. So having a different message one day out, 5 days out, 10 days out, 14 days out, from when they initially engage with your ad. Tell us a little more of, if you, whatever you feel comfortable with, obviously, but how do you guys think about retention? How do you bucket your different remarketing buckets and audience buckets, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so we have tried to think of retention sort of across channels. What I would say is that we have sort of a retention audience in Facebook. We've gotten mixed response, I would say, to sort of too much contact too close to the purchase, and it's very plausible that it varies for different people. That's just our experience. So we focus a little bit more on email marketing. We found some really excellent success there, and trying to not be too hostage to Facebook, right?
Yep, totally.
So that's trying to sort of bring as much as we can in-house. But I would say being thoughtful about it is useful. So sending a message, I think what you just said is not too far off from the mark. Structuring it in such a way that maybe 1, 2, 3 messages, and also I think it varies depending on your product, right? So for us, we have sort of a target, repeat purchase time that often isn't quite as maybe as soon as maybe it might be for other sort of products. The other thing I would say is we sort of separate we have retention plans, then we sort of have immediate marketing afterwards to a certain segment of our customers that we found are more receptive to it. So for example, if a customer, let's just say, we know that a customer has purchased from us before, so this isn't their first purchase, this is their second or whatever purchase, then we found they're much more receptive to continuous marketing. So that's something that's worth sharing.
Interesting. Okay, so if they've made say that one more time, just so I'm clear.
So if you have a customer that has purchased from you more than once, so I'm delineating between a customer that's maybe introduced to your brand versus a customer that has already been introduced to your brand and has purchased maybe a second time, then there's a different way maybe you would want to market to them. Got
it. Okay, cool. Interesting. Yeah, so past purchaser marketing. Definitely different types of deals, different types of content, et cetera, et cetera. That makes sense. Very, very similar to what we do. Last but not least, email marketing is probably. I'm going to wrap things up after this question. It sounds like you guys are really good at email marketing. When I say good, it seems like you guys have a really, really thoughtful way of serving specific pieces of content to where people are in the buying process. Talk a little more about, if you can, about how you guys think of email. Do you guys think of it just as a form of retention, of capturing more revenue? Do you guys use it for a lot of prospecting, of really gathering emails on different parts of the website to really remarket to at later stages? What types of email creatives? Any types of. I know this is mainly a Facebook ad focused podcast, but I love getting in the weeds in email because I know how important it is to the overall success of Facebook campaigns.
Yeah, so I mean, again, cliche, but we view our emails as being in a relationship with our customers, and we found that if, like in any relationship, if you bother people too much, they're not the biggest fans of that.
Yeah.
And so
don't bother people. Key number one.
Yeah, you can pass that on there, and this is an insight worth sharing. If you're tracking your emails, you'll see that the more emails you send, almost universally from people I've spoken to, also the more revenue you're going to see. Like, oh, great, this is wonderful. Just keep sending emails, more and more emails. What you'll find, and this is, you can see it pretty quickly. First of all, your unsubscribe rate will go up. Second of all, the quality of your emails is going to go down. I don't care how good you are at writing or if you have the best creative team in the world, you're not going to be able to produce a large number of high quality emails. And then finally, not every email has to be promotional, right? So sometimes we'll just send emails like, hey, wishing you a happy Valentine's Day. Here's some cool crates that people have repurposed into awesome stuff. Take a look, right? And we found, or hey, here, take a look at our blog. Our blog is these are some of the articles of the week. This is sort of the thing that gets people to read your emails as opposed to saying, oh, it's just Man Crates telling me to buy some stuff again. So I think that's an insight that's worth thinking about for all of your listeners there.
That's great, man. That's really on point, man. I love talking about email and how it can have a positive effect or a negative effect. I always tell a lot of the brands we work with, they also outsource a lot of their email marketing to us. We have a whole email team, and part of the advice I give to a lot of the brands that we work with is to be very sensitive with email. Don't overdo it. Don't try and hit a short-term revenue goal, which is going to hurt long-term, because you're right. Your unsubscribe rate is going to go up if you really pound wood with email and really try and hit short-term revenue goals. But no, man, great stuff. Jeremy, really appreciate you taking the time out of your Valentine's Day to jump on the Spend 10K a Day podcast. If any of our listeners want to get a hold of you, or they have any questions about anything related, or do you want them to email me, or can I forward them off to you? Because sometimes we might have some listeners just having random questions.
No, totally okay for if people have quick questions, can email me at jeremy@mancrates.com, and you should go to mancrates.com. I think that's probably the easiest thing to do, is to really check out what we're doing, and I think there's a lot of insights if you look at the way we structure our site, the way we have our PLPs and PDPs. I think you can learn a lot from that, and it's been great speaking with you. Really appreciate having me on.
Cool, man. Well, that's it. Thanks again. Thanks again for coming on the podcast, bro. That's the wrap. So thanks for listening to the Spend 10K a Day podcast. We have some more amazing stuff coming up on the next episode. We going to be talking a little more about a Valentine's Day recap from a Facebook ad perspective.